If you want to love me, you need to know the storm I live with every night, not because it makes me special, not because it makes me difficult, but because love that doesn't understand reality eventually collides with it. And when that happens, confusion replaces connection. This isn't a warning, it's context. During the day, I function well. I make decisions quickly. I stay composed. I carry responsibility without announcing the weight of it. From the outside, everything looks stable, predictable. Even people assume calm behavior means calm internal weather. That assumption is understandable. It's also incomplete. Night tells a different story. When the world slows down and there's nothing left demanding my attention, that's when the storm arrives. Not violently, not dramatically, quietly, persistently. It's not fear and it's not sadness. It's accumulation. Everything that didn't get processed during the day returns when movement stops. Every unresolved thought, every responsibility that required restraint, every moment where reaction was postponed in favor of discipline. That's what lives with me at night. If you want to love me, you need to understand that I don't collapse under this storm. I manage it. I sit with it. I let it move through me without letting it leak into the world. That takes effort. Real effort. But it's effort I choose because the alternative is letting pressure turn into reaction. And I refuse to live that way. Control isn't peace, it's structure. And structure requires maintenance. At night, my mind doesn't shut down easily. It scans, organizes, revisits, not because something is wrong, but because that's how it learned to survive and later to build. That habit didn't disappear just because life became more stable. Habits outlive the environments that created them. The storm lives in that gap. If you want to love me, you need to know that silence at night doesn't mean distance. It means regulation. It means I'm choosing not to let internal intensity dictate external behavior. That choice keeps me steady when it matters most. I don't expect you to fix this. I don't need solutions or reassurance. The storm isn't a problem, it's a process. And processes don't respond well to interruption. What matters is understanding. Understanding that some nights are heavier than others. Not because something bad happened, but because something mattered. Meaning carries weight. Responsibility has mass. And when everything slows down, that mass becomes noticeable. If you want to love me, you need to know that rest isn't automatic for me. It's earned through regulation, through patience, through letting thoughts finish their work instead of silencing them prematurely. I don't avoid the storm. I respect it. Respect is how it stays manageable. There are nights when I'm quiet, not withdrawn, not distant, just internally busy. Those moments aren't rejection, they're discipline. Discipline that allows me to show up clear-headed and grounded the next day. That's not accidental. I learned early how to keep moving, how to adapt, how to stay composed even when things felt uncertain. That skill became part of who I am. But identities built on endurance come with a cost. And night is where that cost is paid. I don't dramatize it. I don't announce it. I don't ask for sympathy. I just live with it responsibly. If you want to love me, you need to know that reassurance doesn't always land the way people expect. Telling me everything will be okay doesn't quiet the storm because the storm isn't worried about outcomes. It's organizing inputs. It's sorting through complexity so it doesn't show up as chaos later. What helps is steadiness. Presence that doesn't flinch when silence stretches. Understanding that doesn't demand explanation. Patience that isn't tied to a timeline. That kind of presence matters more than words. Some nights the storm brings clarity. Decisions align. Patterns emerge. Things that felt unresolved during the day settle naturally in the quiet. Those nights remind me that the storm isn't an enemy. It's a functioning internal system doing its job. A demanding one, but an honest one. If you want to love me, you don't have to like this about me. You don't have to romanticize. You just have to respect it. Respect means not asking me to flatten my internal world to make things easier to understand. I won't do that anymore. I've tried. It only delayed the storm and made it louder when it returned. Now I meet it directly, without fear, without urgency, with the understanding that what I carry at night is the byproduct of how fully I engage with life during the day. That's not something I apologize for. If you're listening to this and something here feels familiar, if you've lived with your own version of this dorm, then you already understand more than most people ever will. You know what it means to carry away quietly and still show up composed. If this spoke to you, take a moment to like this video. If you value honest, grounded conversations like this, subscribe. And if you carry a storm that few people ever see, Leave a comment, even a simple one. Some storms don't need to be silenced. They need to be understood, first by you, and then by anyone who chooses to love you. When the storm shows up again in the next night, and I don't question it anymore. I don't ask why it's here or when it will leave. Questions like that only add friction. Instead, I let her arrive the way you that weather arrive, without personalizing it, without resisting it, without turning it into a story about failure. This didn't come naturally. At first, I treated the storm like something to defeat. I tried to exhaust it with productivity. I tried to outrun it with achievement. I thought if I said busy enough, disciplined enough, successful enough, it would eventually stop visiting me at night. It didn't. What I learned is simple but uncomfortable. Storms that are ignored don't disappear. They wait, and they get louder when you finally stop moving. Night is the only time I stop moving. During the day, my mind is structured. Tasks create order. Decisions create momentum. Responsibility gives direction. All of that keeps things aligned. But alignment isn't the same as resolution. Resolution requires stillness. And stillness only happens when the world stops asking for you. That's when the storm begins its real work. If you want to love me, you need to understand that my nights are not a continuation of my days. They're counterbalance. Everything I hold together while moving forward gets its space to breathe. When I slow down, that doesn't mean things fall apart. It means they reorganize. Reorganization isn't chaos, it's maintenance. Most people don't see maintenance. They see results. They assume calm behavior means calm internal conditions. But calm behavior is often the result of intense internal regulation. Regulation takes energy, and that energy gets repaid at night. That's the storm. If you want to love me, you need to know that my silence after a long day isn't withdrawal, it's decompression. I'm releasing pressure so it doesn't spill into tomorrow. I'm choosing to process internally instead of reacting externally. That choice matters. I don't want to bring unresolved weight into conversations. I don't want to make my inner turbulence someone else's responsibility. That's not strength. That's deflection. Real strength is holding your own storm without pretending it isn't there. That's what I do. Some nights thoughts move quickly. They connect ideas, revisit decisions, test assumptions. Other nights, everything feels slow and heavy. No clear thoughts, just density. Both are part of the process. One organizes information, the other releases weight. Either needs to be fixed. If you want to love me, you need to understand that comfort doesn't always look like talking. Sometimes comfort looks like not interrupting the process, like sitting nearby without asking questions, like understanding that quiet doesn't mean distance. Distance is disengagement. This is engagement turned inward. I've learned to recognize when the storm wants attention and when it wants time. Attention means listening to recurring thoughts instead of suppressing them. Time means letting heaviness exist without trying to define it. Both require patience. Patience is something I practice nightly. If you love me, you'll notice that after heavy nights, I'm clear the next day. More grounded, less reactive. That's because the storm finished its work. It didn't get stuck. It didn't get ignored. It moved through. That movement is essential. I don't dramatize my nights. I don't talk about them unless it matters. But loving me means knowing they exist even when you don't see them. It means trusting that my calm during the day is earned, not assumed. Earned through discipline, earned through honesty, earned through sitting with discomfort instead of outsourcing it. If you want to love me, you don't have to carry the storm with me. You just have to respect that it's there. Respect means not asking me to simplify myself for comfort, not expecting constant emotional expression, not misinterpreting regulation as emotional absence. I feel deeply. I just choose when and how to express it. That choice protects both of us. There are nights when the storm brings clarity I couldn't access during the day. Patterns reveal themselves. Decisions settle without force. Those nights remind me that this process isn't a flaw, it's an asset. It's how I stay precise in a world that rewards speed over accuracy. If you want to love me, know this. I'm not waiting for the storm to end. I'm not hoping to grow it. I've integrated it. I've learned how to live with it responsibly. And that integration is what allows me to show up steady, intentional, and present when it matters most. If this resonates with you, if you recognize your own nights in these words, take a moment to like this video. If you value honesty over performance, subscribe. And if you carry weight that few people ever see, leave a comment, even a simple one. Some storms aren't signs of damage. The signs of death being handled with care. There's a point in the night when the storm shifts. It doesn't stop, but it changes its shape. The thoughts that felt scattered earlier begin to line up. The weight that felt heavy becomes structure. That moment doesn't arrive because I force it, arrives because stop interfering. That's when I understand what the storm is really doing. It's not trying to overwhelm me, it's trying to complete a process that never gets time during the day. Daytime belongs to action, night belongs to integration. Integration is slower, quieter, and far less visible, but it's where stability is actually built. If you want to love me, you need to understand that this shift is essential. Without it, everything stays half finished internally. Decisions feel rushed, emotions leak out sideways, patterns repeat because they were never fully absorbed. Night is where absorption happens. I don't fight the replaying of conversations or decisions. I don't rush my mind to our conclusions. I let it examine things from multiple angles until clarity forms naturally. Clarity that's rushed doesn't last. Clarity that arrives after stillness does. The difference shows up in how I live. If you've ever wondered why I don't react impulsively, this is why. If you've noticed that I choose my words carefully, this is why. If you've seen me pause instead of respond immediately, this is why. Those pauses are paid for at night. If you want to love me, you need to know that my nights are where restraint is built, where reactions are processed before they ever reach the surface. That restraint isn't emotional distance, it's emotional responsibility. Responsibility is rarely loud. Some nights the storm is active with thought, other nights it's quieter but heavier. Less narrative, more sen. On those nights there's nothing to analyze, just wait to be carried until it settles. I don't rush those nights. Rushing only compresses the weight. Compression turns heaviness into tension. Tension eventually leaks up as irritability or detachment. I don't allow that. Instead, I stay with it. If you want to love me, you need to understand that I don't expect you to be part of this process, but I do expect you not to misinterpret it. Quiet doesn't mean I'm pulling away. Stillness doesn't mean I'm closing off. It means I'm working internally so I can remain open externally. That distinction matters more than comfort. I've learned that many people avoid their nights because they're uncomfortable with stillness. They fill the silence with noise, distraction, or avoidance. That works temporarily, but avoidance accumulates, and what accumulates eventually demands attention. I choose attention now. That choice keeps my inner world aligned. It prevents buildup. It allows me to show up without carrying yesterday into today. If you want to love me, you need to know that this isn't something I'm trying to change. It's something I've refined over time. I've learned how to navigate the storm without letting it define me. It doesn't control me. It informs me. I know when to engage it and when to let it pass. I know when to listen closely and when to simply allow. That discernment didn't come naturally, it was learned through repetition. Repetition is how systems stabilize. You might notice that I don't talk about my nights unless it's necessary. Not because they're important, but because they don't need to be explained constantly to be valid. I don't need to externalize every internal process. Understanding doesn't require constant narration. If you want to love me, you need to know that my depth isn't a performance. It's not something I showcase or dramatize. It's something I manage responsibly so it doesn't overwhelm my life or the people in it. That management is intentional. There are nights when the storm brings insights I didn't expect. Not revelations, alignments, small adjustments that change how I see a situation. Those adjustments don't announce themselves. They simply settle in and alter how I move forward. Those are the nights that shape me most. If you love me, you'll benefit from this process. Even if you never see it directly, you'll experience the result as clarity, consistency, and emotional steadiness. You'll feel it in how I handle conflict, how I listen, how I commit. That steadiness has a source. It comes from nights spent finishing internal work instead of postponing it. I don't fear the storm anymore. I respect it. I schedule my life in a way that allows it to exist without disruption. That respect is what keeps it from becoming destructive. If you want to love me, love that discipline. Love the fact that I don't let unresolved weight spill into our connection. Love you. Honesty is someone who knows their inner world well enough to take responsibility for it. And if you're listening to this and seeing yourself reflected, if your nights are heavier than your days, understand this. You're not failing at peace. You're building it quietly. Peace doesn't always feel light. Sometimes it feels like work done in silence. If this spoke to you, take a moment to like this video. If you value depth over distraction, subscribe. And if you carry your own storm through the night, leave a comment, even a simple one. Some people do their deepest work when the world is asleep. There's a quiet maturity that comes from living with the storm long enough to stop arguing with it. At some point, you realize resistance is louder than the storm itself. You realize that trying to fix what isn't broken only creates friction. That realization doesn't arrive as relief, it arrives as acceptance. And acceptance changes everything. If you want to love me, you need to know that this acceptance didn't make me softer. It made me steadier. I no longer treat my nights as something to endure. I treat them as something to respect. They are not interruptions to my life, they're part of its structure. Just like maintenance is part of any system that's expected to last, these nights are maintenance for me. Without them, things degrade quietly. I've noticed that when people don't give their inner world time to settle, it starts leaking into places it doesn't belong. It shows up as impatience, defensiveness, emotional shortcuts. I've worked too hard to build clarity during the day to let that happen. So at night I slow down, not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. If you want to love me, you need to know that slowing down for me doesn't look peaceful from the outside. It looks like stillness with weight, like silence with intention, like a mind that's active but not chaotic. The kind of stillness is unfamiliar to people who equate calm with emptiness. Emptiness is avoidance. Stillness is presence. Presence means staying with what's there without trying to shape it into something easier. That's what I do at night. I stay. I let thoughts finish their cycles. I let emotions exist without naming them immediately. I let memories surface without assigning blame or meaning. I don't interrogate my inner world, I observe it. Observation creates distance. Distance creates perspective. Perspective is what keeps the storm from becoming personal. If you want to love me, you need to know that I don't identify with the storm. I don't see it as who I am. It's something I experience, not something I become. That distinction is important. Without it, intensity can swallow identity. I don't let that happen. I've learned how to remain grounded even when my inner world is active. That grounding is why I can show up reliably. It's why I don't disappear when things get complex. It's why I don't turn inward at the expense of connection. Connection matters to me. That's why I protect it. Some nights, the storm is case for patience. Other nights, it asks for honesty. Rarely does it ask for answers. Answers come later, often when I'm not actively searching for them. That's something most people don't understand. They thinking harder brings clarity. Sometimes it does, but most of the time clarity arrives when pressure is removed. Night removes pressure naturally. It doesn't rush. It doesn't demand outcomes. It just holds space. If you want to love me, you need to know that I value that space. I don't feel it unnecessarily. I don't distract myself to escape it. I don't numb it with noise. I trust it. Trust is what turns storms into systems. A system has rhythm. It has flow. It has periods of intensity and periods of rest. The storm is just one phase of that cycle. It doesn't need to be eliminated. It needs to be integrated. That's what I've done. I don't expect you to understand every part of this. Understanding every detail isn't required. What matters is respect. Respect means not assuming silence is distance, not assuming heaviness is negativity, not assuming depth is instability. Depth is capacity. Capacity to carry responsibility without collapse. Capacity to sit with discomfort without outsourcing it. Capacity to move through complexity without losing direction. Those capacities were built at night. If you want to love me, you need to know that I'm not afraid of being alone with my thoughts. I'm afraid of ignoring them. Ignored thoughts don't disappear, they shape behavior indirectly. I choose to meet them directly. That choice makes me predictable in the best way.